All right, Almega, I'm going to start the countdown. This is a new episode of Sunder Katz, IDW Part 1, and we'll start the countdown from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coming to you from Studio HQ, I am Dodgy in the mix, and I'm bringing you a new episode of the Sunder Katz. Why Sunder? Because we'll talk about something different. In today's episode, we're going to be focusing IDW. And why cats? Because we are the coolest cats in town. And speaking of a cool cat, I have Manny from Truthful Comics. How are you, my man?
I'm good, man. Ready to rock and roll.
Yes, let's do this. And as I said, today's episode is going to be all about IDW. Just one thing I like about IDW, and if you know this, Manny, is the fact that they have all the licensing from the toys that I collected as a kid. Um, and other toy lines that I remember from when I was a kid, like My Little Pony, among others. What are
Yep.
your thoughts? Like, I mean, why do you like IDW?
Man, I collect so many books from IDW.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like My Little Pony, Sonic the Hedgehog, um,
Mm-hmm.
even make yeah, I buy a bunch of those books for my boys, and for me,
Mm.
I buy TMNT, and I buy 30 Days
Yeah.
of whenever they put out a book. Yeah, so I'm really into IDW.
Yeah, and that's something you hit the mark on. They really are a publisher that also tails the all ages market, right? Like you just brought it up. It's all ages as well as the grittier stuff. Um, but yeah, well, I mean, what do your boys like to read? Like you mentioned a couple, but do you know any more?
Um, I think that you know what, and I usually buy those too. But when I read one of the books that we're gonna discuss, I am gonna
Mhm.
be those books for but I don't know about it yet.
Maybe a couple of years from now, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, as you may know or may not know, guys, IDW's been out since 1999. Um, Idea Dreamwave, I think DreamWorks. Um, they were pretty decent company. And they were a company that really, had a couple of titles that were, there's a 30 Days of Night, um, with another hot book as well.
Oh yeah.
And this was their logo from the 20th anniversary, so 20 years of IDW. Um, it was kind of good to see that they really hit that mark because, to be honest, I didn't think they were around that long. They were just came out under the radar. I think for me, the Transformers was probably the big book that they were doing that I really, really fell in love with because, to me, Transformers was one of my favorite toys growing up.
Yes, Transformers, now that you mention it, yes, I buy Transformers too, and I think Power Rangers is the other book that
Oh
I
yes.
buy.
hmm And here's the current logo of IDW, which is more synonymous. Before they had that, the logo with the light bulb as just being their sole image. You think about like the Golden Arches, but now just having the actual, the letters kind of just symbolize a little bit more and just gave it more focus to the name
Right.
IDW Publishing. And you mentioned Sonic before.
Yep.
Sonic celebrated 30th anniversary, which was kind of nice to that they actually made this little logo, and they do that across all titles of theirs. Like they had one a few years ago of Archie's 80th birthday, whereas they had Archie on basically on variant covers of IDW books. And I know IDW don't really have the ownership of Archie, but they basically publish a couple of their books.
Right.
Yes. And this is the website. So the website is quite good, I thought. And what were your thoughts on the website, Manny?
It's pretty cool. It looks pretty cool. I manage it. I checked it out in on the PC and on my cell phone.
Yeah.
And yeah, on the cell phone, it's a little. It looks a little wonky.
Mhm.
I think it's because they made it specifically for the computer. Because in the
Yeah,
computer it looks perfect. But in the I think in the cell phone it's just too much information to read. You know,
too
in such
condensed,
small
right?
print. So, but yeah, it's pretty easy to navigate and it has a whole bunch of information.
Yes. And one thing I do like about their site is you can actually purchase books. I know I purchased a few G.I. Joe issues that my local comic book store weren't able to supply me. So I bought them online, and like the packaging and the way it was delivered was pretty great. I actually really liked the layout of the website. Oh, and now we've got Reno joining us.
Yes,
Hey, Reno.
sir. What's up? What's
Yes.
up?
Hey,
Hey.
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
All right.
Sorry,
So
sorry, I was
we're
late.
just jumping on the website.
Okay.
Yeah. So have you had a chance to check out the IDW website?
Yes, yes, yes. Very cool site. IDW's. I've been a long time IDW fan, so I was already familiar with the site.
Mhm.
But yeah, they've always had a great site, really navigable and just informative. All the stuff you want from a website.
Yeah, definitely. And we were just asking questions before about what books we like from IDW. Which books do you you mentioned before you've been a fan. So what books do you read?
I I really like and I've always been into TMNT. The Star
Mhm.
Wars stuff though is mainly like heavy on Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, Lock and Key is great. Judge Dredd, GI Joe is the big one for
Mhm.
me though. Like Snake Eyes, GI Joe, Storm Shadow. That's my main thing. But I like all that stuff. 30 Days of Night is great.
Mhm.
Yeah, they just they do a lot of the stuff that I'm into, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think for me, because it really touches my childhood. I love GI Joe. I love
Right.
Transformers, TMNT as well. My only gripe is I wish they did Master of the Universe because I kind of think that
and
I felt that DC didn't know what
Yeah,
to do with Motu,
I
and I
agree.
wish IDW had ownership of that because that would be
Yeah.
still going. It's still an ongoing run. That would actually be my entire childhood right
Right,
there.
because it would fit with the Hasbro, the Hasbro stuff, the Transformers, the GI
Yeah,
Joe, the He-Man. I mean, I don't know if that's Hasbro too, but it's all the
it's
same
mostly
80s
retail, but
toys and
yeah, it's
yeah,
still it's all
yeah,
intertwined in some way.
right.
I know they had Ghostbusters for some.
Yes, they do.
Oh, they still do.
They still do, and they have the hybrids as well, which Hasbro made. Like the half Ecto One. Ecto One from Ghostbusters and Transformer. They made a transforming Ecto One. They're doing it at the moment with the Mandalorian for Back to the Future, the Transformers
Okay.
crossover. And
Yeah.
Hasbro actually made a toy of it, which is mind blowing, man. Like that's so cool.
Yeah. I know they have Usagi Yojimbo
Yes, yes, they just
and
picked that
House
up
Usagi.
from Sakai just like maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here are some of their other offset of their publishing as well. They do games, they do media. So, obviously they have some connection outside of publishing.
Right.
Top Shelf, which is another publishing company that they recently purchased. Um, among other things, probably something that really too far into detail can't really cover in a whole episode, but definitely a powerhouse in
Yeah.
the indie comic industry, right?
They've expanded a lot. Yes.
Oh yeah, big time.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to move on, and now we're going to be touching on these books. So the first book is 30 Days of Night. It's a horror genre, so very much in the Almega world of loving horror.
Right.
Reno, since you chose IDW, I'll get you to kick off for this one. What were your thoughts on 30 Days of Night?
First of all, big fan of the franchise, I guess you will. I mean, the movie was like great. I mean, I've always been into vampires and
Mhm.
I don't know what's going on with my camera here. Hang.
Oh, we just lost Reno for a minute. He shall jump back in. Well, okay, we'll jump into the art side of things. Maddie, what did you like about this book?
I really, like Reno said, I've been a fan since the movie came out. Honestly,
Mhm.
it still gives me nightmares.
Really?
Yeah, I that movie terrified me, but it was so good though.
Mhm.
The artwork it looks really detailed, really good. Everything
Mhm.
is looks super professional.
Yeah.
Um, and the only downfall I think I find with the first issue was that it was, but I guess it's the format they want to reel you in, but it
Mhm.
was. I was expecting a lot more action, but that's just me being selfish.
Yeah, sometimes the storytelling does really lack action in some cases, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I was expecting at least to see vampires or something, but
Mm.
it leaves you with a nice cliffhanger, so it's coming. So
Yes, that's right.
I'm hoping that for issue number two is all out war.
Yeah, and I really like the detail that you see here in the buildings, like in the background. Like it
Yeah,
almost looks like you've just taken a photo, right? But it
yeah.
doesn't make that photo look like it still looks like it's like hand drawn. Like,
Oh,
gosh,
it looks very very detailed. Yeah, they did a really good job.
yes, and especially with the snow on the roof
Oh
and
yeah,
whatnot. Yeah, and I just like the fact that we kind of get teased with some horror elements, but you just see like these still motion type of poses.
There we go.
Okay, so welcome back, Reno. So let's jump back
I
into
don't know
your
what
game.
happened.
So,
I had to restart the browser. It was weird.
oh, that's all right. Well,
Apologies.
you're here. That's all that matters. So tell us why this book was important to you, Reno.
Yeah, so I was saying, always been a fan of the franchise, love vampires. 30 Days of Night was always a great, like a different take on because we had, Interview with the Vampire, the Anne
Mhm.
Rice, very, the noble, or Dracula, but this was like they were monsters, you know what I mean? They were bad, they were demons, like it was, really a scary vampire movies were never scary. They were always kind of more cool, but like 30 Days of Night brought that fear into it, that post-apocalyptic vibe that you might get from like a zombie flick.
Mhm.
That you know what I mean, like Night of the Living Dead aspect. But there's some weird things happening in the Alaskan township of Barrow. And I don't mean the month of darkness that is coming, but the citizens are used to that. But I'm talking about the strangers looking for work, right? The campsite in the snow. And I had to read through this comic twice to make sure, but it certainly is who I thought it is. Thought it was. Now I'm a little confused on if I'm reading a comic book about a murderer on the loose or is there something supernatural in the woods. But if you enjoy a good mystery, then definitely head over to the LCS and pick up this book. Stephen Niles does an amazing reimagining of the series. And it does contain some of the tropes known in the horror genre that are used very well. Biggest example is like the stranger enters the town, there's a murder. I do not believe that this guy is going to be our killer. I suspect something bigger is out there. And in fact, I wager that this burly bearded man will end up being a hero of sorts. I would like to claim that I'm not basing this on bearded bias. I have facial hair myself, but he probably is, you know what I mean? But no, the art is amazing, very cool, very beautiful, and terrifying at the same time. Reminds me of the kind of the small towns that I used to, write about when I was a kid, and like
Mhm.
scary movie type stuff. In the particular town, Barrow could easily be, you know, Sicily, Alaska, from the 1990 show Northern Exposure. The major difference being Sicily, you may have to deal with Joel's incessant complaining, but at least you'll live. After reading
Yes.
this issue, I'll be actively hunting out for more of Peter Kowalski's work. Maybe he can illustrate a horror version of Northern Exposure,
Yeah, that would be interesting.
right? Yeah, something. But yeah,
The
no,
electricity goes down. Oh no! There's no running water. Oh, that's a horror story in its own, right?
right, right, absolutely.
No, there's a blackout. Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But no, man, there's nothing. I don't know. It's just the scary vibe. Some genius thought, wait a minute, there's like 30 Days of Night in Alaska, vampire movie, like vampire story. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just so
true.
obvious, but brilliant at the same time.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, but I mean, do you know if this book's already in a trade form? Like, do you know if this book's been out a while?
I think it's been out a good minute.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah,
definitely there'd be a trade out. Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah, yeah,
so yeah, I mean, if you're someone like me who really hasn't touched too much in this book, do yourself a favor, check out your local comic book store, and just pick up the trade because you'll get everything in one collection. Therefore, you don't have to go hunting for floppies because you may not be able to find them. To be honest,
yeah. It's possible.
yeah, yeah. So, any final words from you, Manny, about the book?
No, I think it looks great. I wish it would have been a little bit more action, but if
Yeah,
I'm getting trade, I'm gonna get
yeah.
the
I
action.
think you'll. Yeah, it'll tickle your fancy. Don't
Oh,
worry.
It's gonna get better. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes. And speaking of tickling fancies, this book really was hot when I heard about this coming out. Part of my 90s vibe came back to me, being the Image fan or even the X-Force fan I was back in the early 90s. And then one of my favorite GI Joe characters, probably my favorite Joe of all time. I was really excited to see this. This is Snake Eyes Endgame #1. So Reno, like you really were wanting to either choose this book or Real American Hero. What made you choose Endgame as your pick?
All right. Well, Snake Eyes is one of my favorite characters, like of all time of pop culture, and definitely my favorite, GI Joe character. And Rob Liefeld is, one of my favorite artists, storytellers in comics. Because like I was big into like New Mutants, Deadpool, and Cable, and all of that stuff. That he kind of, you know, brought to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, he shows that he can still draw one hell of an action sequence in Snake Eyes Deadgame #1. It's nonstop guns, blades, ninjas with guest appearances from other GI Joe characters like Scarlet and Roadblock.
Mm-hmm.
People sometimes shit on Rob Liefeld's art style, especially the feet. They talk about,
Yeah.
but everywhere from Tumblr to fly by night YouTube channels. But they forgot that comics aren't about photorealism or perfectly rendering the human form. They're about storytelling. And Liefeld is one hell of a storyteller, especially when it comes to the dynamic, boisterous action layouts. Definitely check out his X-Force stuff. And it's evident from the first page of Snake Eyes Deadgame. And there's two immortal beings face each other with blades using a scarlet red background to kind of hint at the mayhem to come. Utilizing a single page, Liefeld and Chad Bowers established the main thrust of the plot and the MacGuffin before getting to the good stuff. Snake Eyes wordlessly infiltrating a secret base. Liefeld uses a variety of types of shots. I call them, to show him breaking in before unleashing his, inner martial arts filmmaker and using the tight close-ups as Snake Eyes takes down the bad guys, using full-page pin-up shots to let the story breathe and give some of the old wizard reading fans something to smile at. But Rob Liefeld doesn't use double-page spreads until later in the story when Snake Eyes fights against the series' big bad. And everything has been like a walk in the park up to that point. And the widescreen layouts, coupled with Federico Bellini's red and black and Bauer's taunting dialogue, raised the stakes for Snake Eyes. Also, Snake Eyes whips out his dual pistols for the first time, giving his enemy a little taste of the 21st century. The variety of combat techniques keeps the fights interesting as Snake Eyes' opponent shows a little bit of horror side to go with the bloody katanas, guns, akimbo action majority of the comic. He's connected to Snake Eyes' past, but not in an annoying way. And mostly his purpose is to show that this badass ninja might need a little help from his bros, the Joe forward. But I want to discuss Chad Bauer's skill at capturing the voice of a character who doesn't have vocal cords.
Yeah.
Bowers, his captions never overwhelm Liefeld, Corona, and Blee's art, adding just the right amount of flavor to the context to Snake Eyes' actions. In fact, they remind me of a less verbose Chris Claremont in the first Wolverine miniseries that, with Frank Miller and Joe Rubinstein art truly established him as like both a force of nature and a noble warrior. And, Snake Eyes has a mission to fulfill, and he only commits acts of violence in service of that mission, which is like a rescue to start out with. In the full baklava and visor get up that he wears reinforces, this efficient, non-sadistic approach, as Snake Eyes is like a smooth killer, not not a raging all out, all over the place. He's like an assassin. In contrast, Bowers writes quippier dialogue for the other Joes, more in line with a traditional action movie that you would normally, you know what I mean? The typical Arnold one-liners. But in the final analysis, for me, Snake Eyes Deadgame #1 is a damn good ninja comic, a showcase for Rob Liefeld's action storytelling, and in my case, a strong introduction to the G.I. Joe, IDW G.I. Joe Snake Eyes universe. And this first issue shows Snake Eyes' strengths as a solo act, and I'm interested to see where it goes after this because I've read the whole series, but I think they're gonna do another thing. Like, these are all issues. This is all rather covers of the first and second issues. These crazy variant covers. I mean,
I love the red variant cover one. Oof.
Yeah.
Like Crane.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I like that.
And then this one, like the old school.
Yeah, that's what I really want. Far out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But this guy, this artist, Jang, his name is Jang, Giang. That's all he writes. All he signs. His name is Jang. But he's so like it's realism, but it's
but still looks. Yeah, it doesn't look like too realistic.
Right.
So good.
But it's not cartoony at the same. It's like
exactly
badass.
Yeah. So Manny, like, what did you like about this book?
Like Reno and like most of the people in the world, Snake Eyes is like one of my favorite characters. I mean, who doesn't like Snake Eyes and Stone Shadow?
I know, right?
But to me the book it was I liked it, but when it starts it hit me right in the feels because I'm a Thor fan. So the comic starts with Thor fighting this ninja.
Yes, that's right.
So I'm like, wait, what's going on? And as they introduce this new being, it's like an immortal being or something. So it's almost like it's almost too big for Snake Eyes because he is a ninja. Yeah. He's not like Superman or a god or something like that. And he's going to be competing against like a god, basically. So I'm interested to see what happens and how they're going to deal with this. I'm sure they're going to say that he's from some sort of ancient lineage, or that he has some sort of powers or something. So I'm interested. I'm in.
Yeah, same.
It's dope.
And with the artwork, like with Rob Liefeld, a lot of people, don't like his artwork, whatever. For me, he's hit and miss. It's like if I'm flipping the page, as I was flipping, reading the comic, when the first page that you see is Snake Eyes jumping, it looks amazing. And some panels that are kind of wonky, but it's like Reno said, if you just let yourself go and just follow the storytelling, you're gonna have fun. I mean, they can say a lot of things about Rob Liefeld, but you won't say his books are boring. So
no way. And the thing is, just his name alone actually generates money because people will buy it. So so you can't really criticize him too much because you might have a star player in your team. He might be a bit of a jerk, but at the same time he could be drawing a crowd because he's entertaining. So not to say that Rob Liefeld's a jerk, but I'm just saying that people just criticize his work so much that people would just scoff at it without actually looking at it. And at the same time, people still buy it because he's an entertainer. He entertains. So definitely.
And the thing is, I may like feel I may like Jorge Jimenez. Some other people might like Alex Ross, but there's people that love his work. And even if you don't like it or I don't like it or whatever, there's thousands of people, millions of people that love his work.
Yeah.
And that's what he's making this comic for. You know, if you don't like it, and skip it and get the next one.
Exactly. But he's respected by his you know, by other artists. Like other artists who might be far superior artists still respect him. They don't like they don't jump on the criticizing bandwagon. They actually go, no, you know what? He's probably a better artist than I am, and may not necessarily be true, but in their view, they're like talking about, say, an artist like Picasso. You know, like another artist will look at Picasso as being, you know, instrumental in their career.
Right.
Even though the art style might be not as good as theirs, but they still respect him enough to say, hey, you know what, he's a better artist than I am.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because his ability to like come up with stuff, like, you know, his inventiveness, you know, like just remember how he drew Cable back in the day, just like massive. It's just that creativity, you know, drawing the, you know, creating the characters not anatomically correct is what makes them dope. You know?
Yeah, but the thing with Cable as well, we're just gonna jump on there for a minute, is the fact that he wasn't like a young sprite dude. He was an older, more rugged type of character, which probably wasn't that popular in the late 80s, early 90s. You know, like it was a very unique character for that time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He's one of my favorite characters, period, in all of comicdom.
Of course,
like in my top 5. Wolverine, Cable, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next book now. Oh yes. Speaking of Deadpool, speaking of weapons, here's another character.
Yes.
With a similar layout of you know, of apparel that he's wearing right now. Yeah, Arsenal is a good phrase. I think this is The Last Ronin, and this was probably a book that really just sprung out of nowhere. They just like, as you know what, TMNT releasing a new offshoot. And by reading this, I was truly captivated. Reno, what were your thoughts on The Last Ronin?
Kind of funny because, like you were saying about Cable, like a recent popular trend in comics today is the old man, you know, the old man Logan, or the old man this or that, or the old woman. You know, where the story focused on a future world where the only remaining superheroes have become evil, you know, corrupted, or probably dead, you know, and the titular old man Logan had retired out of shame and was drawn back, and, you know, due to horrible circumstances in his story, while the stereotypical butt-kicking old person is still a new concept. But it's arguably the first time it's ever been applied to TMNT.
Yes.
And you know what I mean? It's like, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin is brought to us by a bunch of wonderful creators. Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, Tom Waltz are credited with the story. Waltz and Eastman worked on the script, while Eastman provided the layout, storyboard for the comics. Pencils and inks, you know, fell to Esau and Isaac Escorza, with assistance from Ben Bishop. Samuel Plata and Luis Antonio Delgado worked on the colors. Sean Lee lettered the book. Just legendary, you know, you couldn't lose. And for those who don't know their Turtles history, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird are the two who came up with the concept of the Turtles themselves. You know, and this is the first comic that they've worked on together in over 20 years.
Oh yeah.
Further, this is based on off of a lot of the plot line they almost did back in '87 when the comic was still new. You know, and to say there's been some hype on this is an understatement. And but like taking place today, or rather the far future from when, you know, back then, the city of New York has mutated and evolved into a stronghold, like something out of Escape from New York or Judge Dredd's Mega City 1. Massive walls surround the island of Manhattan, and the people live in some combination of poverty and high technology, you know, very like Shadowrun, like cyberpunk, and this is where the title character sneaks in, desiring revenge against those in charge. You know, the Foot Clan thrives. The last living Ninja Turtle has returned to avenge his fallen brothers. But this book is honestly amazing in most respects. The art coming from the scores is fantastically moody, preserving the noir and dark feel of the original TMNT comics with the modern stylistic choices and brief but brutal action. Eastman still has some great knack for action sequences as well, with some delightful chase sequences that feel like they could be on the big screen, like cinematic stuff. The colors chosen also will splash across the page as a combination of like futuristic neon and gritty grime, depending on the setting, and it does just as much to the feeling for the future as the rest of the art does. Really, there's nothing, nothing to complain about. Like, I can't take anything from it. It's just, and as for the story itself, a lot of mystery in this first issue revolves around who this turtle is. Which of the turtles is he? He's got the black bandana. So yeah, you think, man, is it Leonardo? Or he's kind of acting a little bit like Raphael. But which one of them would have lived if everyone got killed? So you're really trying to figure it out. And the dialogue is simple and to the point. But the overall narration brings up memories of the good old days of Frank Miller, the one whose Daredevil run wound up inspiring the TMNT themselves.
Yes.
And a lot of the mystery focuses on who the Last Ronin is, who that turtle is, and the reveal at the end of the issue actually does leave the reader demanding more. It makes you really like, okay, now what's going on? Like, you know what I mean? But despite the fact that this is solidly set in the future of the current run of IDW comics, you don't need to have read a single issue of TMNT or anything to understand the Last Ronin. It's very self-contained. Frankly, any fan of the recent old people, old man this comics need to check out this comic, as does any turtle fan. The fact that Eastman and Laird have come back to work on this together alone is a great reason to read this book, honestly. But the fact that it has delivered so far is icing on the cake. It's phenomenal. I've read I think it's up to issue like 4 now, so I'm totally caught up. Like, I can't get enough of this whole thing. It's great.
Yeah, for me, this is like a book I can't wait to have as a trade. Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah. But I do like the fact that the books are actually oversized, so not your standard floppy size. So if you are looking to put it in like a long box, you're probably not going to fit it. You might have to get like maybe a magazine type box.
Yeah, I've got mine in like special sized cases and stuff.
Yes, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the book, man. I know we had a brief discussion before we went on air, but just for the readers or the watchers or listeners out there, what were your thoughts?
Honestly, I consider this book I consider this a perfect comic book. From the story, from the artwork, there's no flaw. The dialogue is simple enough that anyone can understand it. Yet there's a lot of things happening that you kind of don't quite understand until you keep reading. Like, for example, he's talking to his brothers, but they're not there. They're dead. It's just in his head. There's points of the story where he says, "I failed. I came up short." There's nothing new in that. So that makes you feel like, wow, who is he? Rap always said that, like, nothing I do is ever good enough. So the reveal at the end is it's a great reveal. I'm not gonna say it because I want people to buy it. But let's just say, I'm gonna just say this. The turtle that it actually is, he's my favorite turtle of all time.
Oh, really?
I did not see this until I read this, and I was squealing.
Nice. I'm gonna tell you, it's a mind blower, man. It's like, really,
it really was.
It is, and and I there's points where I know Kevin Eastman did the layout, and there's points that you can actually see. If you read the old comics, the Mirage comics and stuff, you can see where this panel is definitely him. Okay, there's so many good things to say about this book. It's just it was a work of art.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, imagine if this book actually came out as a movie. Like, oh my gosh, that would be so good.
It needs to.
Yeah, it really
animated. Yeah, IDW, if you're watching this, animate this book.
Please
animate this series, please.
Yeah, because I honestly thought that this was it was very unique. Like, you think about Dark Knight Returns, and then you've got, you mentioned before, Reno, Old Man Logan. Like this, you really wouldn't have expected it from a TMNT franchise. Like, it's just insane, but it's well made, and the prices now to buy the book in the black market is pretty high. So it's definitely a hot book. It's probably one of IDW's hottest books.
You can get, I think they're doing, there's several reprints now. You can get them for $8.99 for the cover price. But yeah, they're $8.99 cover price because, like you said, they're huge.
Yeah,
IDW people are reading this, are listening to this. Please, I want the hardcover edition.
Yeah, hardcover, all 5 issues.
Oh God.
Oh, and imagine if they got sketches and concept art in the back.
Yeah, I'll put some money down for that.
Yeah, no, definitely I'd buy that for $1. No, I'll pay a lot more than that.
Yeah, that's right. No, it won't be $1.
Yeah, I know. Oof. Yeah, look at that.
Look at some of these covers. Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me get
it looks like just an oversized panel, right? It's gorgeous.
Yeah. And you know what, Dodgy, you mentioned something about Frank Miller, and the artwork at some points it resembles a lot of Frank Miller.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Because Reno mentioned before, the actual idea from the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was like a parody of Daredevil.
Oh yeah,
Frank Miller's Daredevil.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
and they all had red. That's why they all.
Yeah, it's so good. I like that. They're working together, but they're not. The parody, I guess, is just a paraphrase, but it's its own book now. But it's so good that they can borrow these sorts of concepts. And like this illustration here with the motorized car, it has that Minority Report / Blade Runner feel.
Yeah, Blade Runners. Yeah.
It gives a little bit something to the old school followers of the Turtles, like when he mentions the Mouser. Like if you read the comics and if you've seen the animated series, you know what a Mouser is. And
exactly.
So I was like, oh my God, here's the Mousers.
Yeah, my goodness. Oh yeah, the motorized. Yeah, that was so different. But definitely, it's definitely it is a must read, and even if you haven't ever read a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle book before, this is definitely a great step off. It's
it's a good, great to start with. I mean, I don't know. I guess you might want to know about the fact that there are 4 turtles and know who they are. It does help to kind of know who they are. It makes it more. I think it makes it more exciting to be know the 4 personalities and try to guess which one it is, stuff like that. But
true. But I can guarantee most people who may have never actually read a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic before may know who they are based on
from the cartoons and stuff, from the movies.
Turtles are so ingrained in pop culture nowadays that it's hard to find a person that actually doesn't know who the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. We're going to move on now to the final book, which was another hot book that IDW published in the last couple of years, and along par with the Last Ronin, that this book, the first print is very, very expensive to buy now.
Yeah,
and this is Canto #1 from the first run. This book was like a mind-blowing exercise. It came out I discovered it, I think, third print. I'm thinking, what the hell is this? And looking at the first print, it's very, very expensive, like $150 US now. But Reno, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this mythical fairy tale.
Yeah, like you, I didn't know about it right away. I wish I had been able to grab a first print of the first issue, but it was it's one of those kind of, like you said, like mystical, whimsical. set in a fantastical world where tiny tin people like Wizard of Oz, kind of thing with clocks for heart. It reminds me of what's that Wizard of Oz land? It was like the sequel to it that they did in the 80s.
Oh, Return to Oz.
Yes, it kind of gave me those vibes in some way.
Yeah,
Like
a bit darker, right?
Right, with the clocks for hearts, and they're enslaved by satyr like overlords, and the main protagonist Kanto, he wants to be free, and although he and his ilk are forbidden to have names and relationships, Kanto has both, and Kanto is beloved and is damaged beyond repair because of him, his I don't know, not his girlfriend, but like the thing he loves. And he's sent on a dangerous quest to kind of retrieve her heart from their slavers before she meets a fiery death in the furnace. And IDW has described Kanto as an all ages title. Why is my phone making noise?
Right.
Do not disturb. It's supposed to be an all ages title, and I think it's an apt statement. While carrying heavy themes of slavery, mutilation, and sacrifice, to name a few, it never feels like it would be inappropriate for a young child to read. Like we had crazy fairy tales, and like even Return to Oz. Like there was movies and stories. We were kids that they touched on them deeper themes. For example, violence is implied, but it's never outright shown on the page. And the term all ages tends to function as a euphemism for kiddie in comics. Like when you hear all ages, you think it's a kid thing, but Kanto is a great example of something that truly does feel like it could be for anybody, regardless of how old they are. And it definitely has a flair mirroring that the Dark Crystal, as well as the aforementioned Wizard of Oz. Exactly. And I found that very appealing. A lot of this is down to Drew Zucker's art, which successfully makes you empathize with Kanto. And despite him not having much in the way of a face, his eyes are very expressive enough that you'll get all you need from his eyes. And the look of the book itself is generally fantastic, with heavy inks and stylized proportions, complemented by Viterio Stone's rich coloring. And you could easily imagine the art direction here easily translate itself into a stop motion animated film, or one with like puppetry, not unlike Dark Crystal or something like that. And the letterer Darren Bennett rounds out the visual team with a quality lettering that doesn't call attention to itself except when purposeful, like sound effects and stuff. But and then David M. Boer's script is also very tight and strong, sufficiently laying out the premise of the overall series based on the first issue. The mark of a good comic book writer is knowing when to say nothing and let the pages speak for themselves, which happens a lot here. And by my count, there's a handful of pages without any text on them, and save for occasional sound effects. And I appreciate a comic that knows when to pull back on the narration and the dialogue for the sake of them, the art, because letting the art breathe and do its own job of visual storytelling is what comics are about. And Kanto definitely hits the mark on that, in my opinion. So I definitely got to recommend this book. I think it's great.
Yeah, definitely. It's one that I like. You're right. It really touches on the heartstrings, and I just love the pacing of it, and the fact that you kind of know who Kanto is from the very beginning. And even though his introduction is somewhat subtle, you still can kind of feel who he is and what kind of person he is. I think he's a really lovable character.
Yeah.
But Manny, like in terms of the art design and the layout, what were your thoughts from an artist perspective?
Oh man, the art is almost like a character in itself. The artwork it separates it from everything else that I came into this book completely cold. I did not know anything about it. I've seen a few images of Kanto here and there, but I did not know anything about it. So just it's visually striking. It's it's dark fantasy, and like Reno said, it almost feels like it could be like a Nightmare Before Christmas type of movie. And it visually looks like that. It looks he almost looks like he's about to fall apart at some point, just because of the way he looks. But it's very very striking, very striking very dark, and a lot of, like he said, heavy ink, a lot of details.
Yeah.
The story, it's cool. It's a dark fantasy. Although I don't quite understand because they take their heart of every slave so that they don't have a personality, but yet Kanto has a personality.
Right.
That's kind of okay. I guess he is special.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's like any of those stories. There's always the one special one, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it sucks that at this point you can't find it because it's so expensive. But hopefully I can get a trade paperback and actually read the whole story, see what it is.
Same.
They're up to the 3rd volume. There's like there's Kanto, and then there's Kanto 2, and now there's Kanto 3, the Lionhearted.
Yes.
It's like a whole nother like storyline, I guess. Like I haven't gotten into it, read it, but
yeah, no, I'd love to
really
read this. I'd love to read the first one to get the full feel.
What was that? Sorry, I'm sorry.
I was saying I'd love to grab the first trade so I can get the full feel of the story.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I do like the fact that maybe because obviously no one has a heart, no one really has their own feelings, but I guess they're all become followers, and I think Kanto is just the kind of character that probably is showing a little bit of leadership, and therefore everyone just follows him, and that's why he's basically the special one.
Yeah.
But but it's so like it has a bone feel to it as well. If you guys could see that, I love those bone books. It has that feel as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Big monsters, and it's so good. Yeah. But definitely, I mean, okay, so we're gonna go around the board. So for me, I think it's a toss-up between Last Ronin and Kanto were my favorite books. Rena, what was your favorite book from this collection we spoke about today?
It's hard to, I mean, it's because Snake Eyes is like it's my joint, but Last Ronin is so good.
I know.
It's like I want to give it to Snake Eyes, but I don't know. Last Ronin is so good, dude. It's so good. I gotta give it to the Ronin. I mean, because I've read on, like I've read the next book, so I really get it. Like it's fucking good.
It's so good. How about you, Manny?
Oh, Last Ronin, no doubt. Yeah, hands down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I might jump on the Last Ronin as well because it does play with your heartstrings because it is something from your childhood, right? And it's just so different.
It's so well done.
Yeah,
I was like, they killed the Ninja Turtles. Like what? I couldn't believe it. Like they really did that. That's cool. That's just cool. Like I'm a big fan of like Game of Thrones or Sopranos, shows or stories just where the main character can die.
Yes.
Like that's stakes. Like when they chop Ned's head off in Game of Thrones, I was like, what? Oh, I'm back for season 2. Like, and then when they killed Rob at the Red Wedding, I was like, all right, this officially is my favorite show of all time.
Yeah, even the way they killed off Joffrey as well. Like Joffrey, I thought was gonna last till the very end.
Yeah,
but even he wasn't safe.
That was a shocker too. Absolutely.
Yeah,
that was a big shock. A lot of shockers, man. That's what to me. A writer that is not afraid to kill the main character is a brave dude or woman, and to me it just makes the best storytelling. I mean, because there's nothing like stakes in a story. Like you're really like anxious for this character or whatever because that this writer don't care. He could kill this dude. Like this, he could die. But other stories, it's like, well, he's not gonna die, so you're not that invested. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
for me, as no question. Like when main characters die, it's just a mark of quality, in my opinion.
That's the problem sometimes that we find in comics, that even if the main character dies, he's coming back.
Right.
But what's great about the Last Ronin is that it's the finality of it. They're not coming back.
Right.
Yeah, so true.
Because it's a standalone story. It's not part of the continuity, so they're not coming back. In this universe, they're dead.
Yeah, that's it. They're dead, and that's what's so shocking. Because when you read a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book, or when you see a movie, you know they're in danger, but you never expect them to die.
Nah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like, kudos to the creators out there that made this book, because seriously, I never thought we'd even hear of this, but to actually see it and read it, like, it's pretty amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Respect.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you guys for watching the latest episode of the Sunder Katz. I know it's been a couple of weeks between drinks, but thank you for joining us. And we'll see you all next time. And remember, Sunder
Katz.
Yo!
Hey, that was better.
That was better.
Yes,
that was better.
we timed it right. All right, guys. Thank
you
for
for
joining.
and don't forget to
like and subscribe.
And don't forget to catch me on Sixth Element of Hip Hop on YouTube and Sixth Element Comics on Instagram. Manny, where can they find you at?
Triplecomics.com.
That's it. All right, guys. See you all next time.
Salute.